Okay, so the last photo I'm going to try to process for this particular evening will be this one. This is also on a bridge close to where I'm staying here in Saigon. So let's. I tried a couple different angles, and the one thing that really I think kind of ruins it for me is this light post. Not so much that it's there; it's that the light is so bright and it's a different color temperature than these other lights in the background, and it really just kind of loses the drama, I think, in a nice nighttime city photograph. Looking at that and then looking at this, I like the composition here better with the way the road kind of leads the eye up here, and this light post is a little off center, which is good, but its light is still very, very strong here in the foreground. But I'm going to see if we can even attempt to salvage this. I mean, look at these little like spots here of like flare bokeh. And I don't know if that's because of the humidity, if it's on the lens front element, or if it's a property of the sensor or what. But I don't know. I'll deal with that later if I have to. But looking at this now, what I'm going to do is what I usually do. I'm going to set the white balance to tungsten to kind of give it the cool, cold, sci-fi feel. Might be a little too blue there, so I'm just going to bump it up a touch. Maybe add a little bit of magenta right there. That's my starting point. And then let's see here. Mess around with the contrast slider. And I don't know if I'm going to bump up the shadows too much. Maybe just a touch. The whites I might leave alone. Let's see the highlights. If we dim it down here, bring back some of the detail here in the sides here. Excuse me. And then the blacks. Let's see. I'm holding down the Alt key right now to kind of see where the blacks start to creep in when I slide it to the left. And then for the whites, I'll use my eye. See what looks good. But see, now I'm starting to lose this highlight here too. I don't know if I like that. But maybe if I go to this curves, the tone curves panel, I can lower, see I can bring some of that back here. And let's dial back the whites even more. Okay, so that's good. And then the clarity slider, which is great for cityscapes, I'm gonna bump it up here. It should make it pop a little bit. There we go. Vibrance and saturation, I don't know if we need to touch that too much. They say that vibrance is a little better for retaining detail than saturation. You can blow out color channels if you bump up the saturation too much. So, okay, so let's go with the basic development panel right here. And let's fine tune it a little bit. I'm going to, because I still feel this foreground area is too bright thanks to this light right here, I'm going to go to the adjustment brush and I'm going to dial the exposure down. Well, this is, let's dial it down to, I don't know, a couple stops. And let's start to brush it in. I'm just using my finger and trackpad right now. I do have a Wacom tablet, but I'm not bringing it out quite yet. Okay, so I kind of like where this is going. So I believe that does wonders by really dialing in the negative exposure here, so it's not so bright and it doesn't draw your attention too much there. I really like that. In fact, I might leave it just like that and just play with some of the other parts of the photo. So let's start a new adjustment. And I kind of want to bring these buildings out a little bit. So maybe I'll start with exposure, something conservative like half a stop. And I'm just kind of using the bracket keys to adjust the brush size here. And if I want extra precision, then I would probably just use my tablet. And then I could use the stylus like I'm drawing. But I'm just using the trackpad. Now, this adjustment here, I adjusted the buildings in the background and this one right here all at the same time. So they're essentially on the same, I guess you could call layer. So I can adjust all of those globally and universally with sliders for fine tuning. So what I have brushed in here for the exposure compensation, I lightened them all up a little bit, but I can, whatever I touch with this brush is essentially highlighted on the same layer. So I can play with its, its shadows a little bit, its whites, its blacks, kind of make it glow a little bit. And I think the clarity, if we add further clarity to this thing, really make it pop. Maybe a dehaze for the far background stuff. I don't know, that really does anything that I like. Kind of darkens it. I kind of want it to glow a little bit. I'm going to add a new adjustment. And this far building in the background is still kind of dark. So let's see if we can bring it out just a touch more. Could be too much, actually. So I'm going to dial that back a little bit. I could even use the eraser here. If I kind of went a little sloppy and I get a little bit on the outside, you can clean it up. There. And I'm going to do a new adjustment brush, and I'm going to lower the exposure. I don't know if I want this pole to be so bright, so I'm carefully just kind of running down this pole. Here, I could tweak it. And there we go. I think we have a good starting point. I'm still not sure what to do with this stuff. If I should just leave it as part of the, the way it was captured, or maybe try to get rid of it if it's not too time consuming with like a spot removal or healing brush or a clone tool. So go back to the basic development panel here. Go to the tone curve. I think things are okay there. I'm gonna, for the most part, leave alone. The lights here, I might raise it up a bit. This should make the buildings glow just a little bit more subtly. That's not bad, actually. I'm gonna go to the color here, see if I need to mess around with any hue and saturation. I think it should be fine. I don't really see anything that I really need to bring out. Even the reds here, if I increase the luminance of the reds, and if I increase the luminance of the blues, most of the scene is blue, so it'll probably go up that. Although that's not bad. Just a little bit. So it's not so dark. Purples and magentas, let's see here. Doesn't do much either way. I'm going to leave that alone. Purples. The building in the background has a lot of purple in it. So I'm going to raise that up. And saturation, I think it's fine. I don't want it too oversaturated. Although I wonder if the blues are too saturated. I do like... See, if I take away, look, it shows you how much of the picture is blue, but that's because I played with the color temperature. If I lower it just a touch right there. Okay, so that image is good. I wonder if I need to do any corrections. I mean, these buildings here are kind of tilted. I don't know if I'm going to mess around too much with the tilt, manual tilting here. Let's see. Here, and if I rotate there, That's good enough. Everything is very much vertical. The horizon line looks a little more um, horizontal. And I'm going to open the image. Ha! Saw a little bit of my other work there. You caught that. And let's see, duplicate the layer if I need to do any retouching. I'm curious as to see how well. I'm not going to use a spot healing brush. That's more for like little spots. But I might use the patch. I love the patch tool because all you do is you just circle the offending area and you just kind of drag it to an area that could replace it. You know, you just kind of search around and see what looks good, what looks similar, and you let go, and then the algorithms and Photoshop does its own thinking to kind of blend it all together. And that got rid of it pretty good. Let's try it here. I'm going to do the easy ones first, and then the ones that are kind of clumped together might be a little hard. See, that was good. I'm still using the trackpad, even though it would be so much easier to just use my tablet. That looks good. That looks good there. Let's take care of these two at the same time. They're like twin stars. There we go. And a little bit of patience and persistence doing this one at a time. And it's not looking too bad. It's passable. You really, unless you zoom in and you're actually looking for this stuff, most people won't even notice that it was there in the first place. We got a couple dust spots. Come on, Sony. What's up with your dust reduction system built into your cameras? Olympus can do it, right? Why can't you? There's a dust spot up here. Get rid of that. Dust spot down here. Get rid of that. Faint flare right there. Get rid of that. If you tackle the easy ones first, you kind of create a little bit of room and leeway for the more complicated ones. Trying to find a patch of sky that kind of roughly matches that area. Let go. And not bad. I'll take it. And I'm not going to get rid of all of it, I don't think, but if you get rid of most of it, then the distraction isn't really there. You know, my goal is to not have it be like the first thing the eyes are drawn to when you look at the photo, so should be pretty good. I might try to get rid of this one up here because it's easy. This one will be a little bit harder. But let's look at the before and after. See how much of that I got rid of? Not too bad. See if I can get rid of this convincingly. I don't think I will with one fell swoop. I might have to actually use a couple techniques. Maybe the clone stamp. So let me whip it out and quickly see what I can do. Add an empty layer, use the clone tool. And sample from the normal dark area here. I'm going to put that layer on darken too. So whatever I sample from and draw on, it will only darken. Um, it'll only darken, make the pixels darker than the pixels I sampled from, and not lighter. All right, not too bad. Oh no, why did it do that? Darken. There we go. Very nice. Now let me try it up here. There we go, I got rid of those flares. Up here will be pretty easy. The ones by the light posts might be a little bit harder. You don't want to try to mess with those. I'll give it a try. See what happens if I sample from here, where it's darker on the outside of the pole. Try to match it, align it perfectly. I lucked out there. Let's try it again here. Not too bad. I'll take it. I'll definitely take it. And see if I want to do some minor curves adjustments here. There's a little bit of flare up here. I don't know if I'm going to worry about these too much. They're so minor compared to the major fixes that we did. Perfect. I'm going to merge that down. And the finishing touch, I'm going to go to curves. And I usually will use the eyedropper tool. I'm going to drag this up here. I'm going to drag that down. So that's a little too extreme. That doesn't do me any good. But I'm just going to work on this glow. I kind of want to emphasize this glow here. It almost gives me an excuse to kind of do something with this void of sky. So I'm just going to give it a little touch of glow right there. Add a little bit of atmosphere. If that's too strong, I'll dial it down with the opacity over here. Just a touch. Before and after. Subtle touch. Perfect. And I noticed there's an empty spot here from my raw adjustment with the distortion, so it left a little space as it was pushing everything away, pushing the upper part of this photo away from us to tilt the buildings to make them look a little more vertical. So here I'm going to use the content aware, see if it does any good. Not too bad. Look at that. Pretty good. Tiny little spot here. No biggie. Clone it out. Alright. Looks like this picture is salvageable after all. So I'm going to do a final curves layer. And see, I kind of want to do something with this road still. Maybe add a little glow to it. Maybe a glow following the streak of light created by a motorbike or two. Probably one. See if this looks stupid. It might work. Let's create another trail here. Basically, part of what makes an image interesting is the contrast of the image. I'm not just talking lights and darks, but with color too. Although this is more of a value thing right here, lights and darks. But if you can alternate lights and darks in your image, then it creates interest, visual interest. It doesn't look so flat. So I'm creating a trail of glowing light here along the roads. You can see the alternate, light, dark, and maybe light here. And look how much more interesting that is than the original photo. That's good. And I'm going to do one more curves adjustment. And it's going to darken, basically, I want to darken this grassy area right here. And I'm using a layer mask. So what happened was that I darkened the entire photo, and then I put a mask over it, and then I'm just kind of brushing in the areas that I want affected. In this case, just this area in the corner. And you can see the before and after when I turn on and off the eye. So it's amazing what a little bit of Photoshop and manipulating the light and kind of knowing how to balance your lights and your darks and your colors can really help bring out a photo. And I'm going to leave this alone here. I think this is the before and after of, this is after the raw adjustments right here, this before photo. So I had to go through a round of basic raw adjustments and then bring it into Photoshop to do all the fine tuning. And this is what you get. So I'm going to do one more thing here. Because the bottom of the main light pole is starting to get a little lost here in the darkness. So I'm going to raise the entire brightness of the photo, put a mask over the entire thing, and just brush in to reveal only what I want. So by brightening up the bottom part of the pole, I have a little bit of consistency from the top to the bottom. It's not going to be super consistent because of the light at the top of it, but it's going to pop this out, and it's going to again alternate, the contrast between the lights and the darks of this foreground area, and then again you have repeated contrast, lights, darks, lights, darks, lights, darks, and it just, it keeps the eye moving all around the photo. Okay, it's a subtle touch, but look at that. Okay, so I'm going to call this good, save it, and there you go.